Have you ever wondered about the true story behind the giants of the Bible? The legendary Nephilim, Goliath, and his colossal brothers have fascinated and intrigued readers for centuries. What if I told you there's more to the story than meets the eye? Today, we are going to dive deep into the ancient scriptures to discover the true story of these mighty giants. Stay with us as we unravel the mystery of Goliath and his kin, exploring their origins, their significance, and the impact they had on biblical history. Get ready for a journey through time that will change the way you see these legendary figures forever. In the early chapters of Genesis, we encounter a cryptic and intriguing passage that introduces us to the Nephilim. Genesis 6 verses 1-4 speaks of a time when the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. From these unions, the Nephilim were born, described as the heroes of old, men of renown. This brief mention raises countless questions. Who were these sons of God? And what made the Nephilim so special? Some scholars suggest that the sons of God were fallen angels, drawing parallels to other ancient texts like the Book of Enoch, which expands on this idea. According to this interpretation, these celestial beings left their heavenly abode to take human wives, leading to the birth of their giant offspring. The notion of angels mingling with humans may sound far-fetched, but it adds a layer of depth to the mysterious origins of the Nephilim. Other interpretations propose that the sons of God were simply noble or powerful human leaders, whose unions with women of lower status produced extraordinary offspring. This view sees the Nephilim as exceptional humans, not otherworldly beings. Yet, regardless of the interpretation, the presence of the Nephilim in the Bible suggests they were more than ordinary people. They were figures of great strength and stature, setting them apart from the rest of humanity. The term Nephilim itself is shrouded in mystery. Some translations render it as giants, while others maintain the Hebrew term. The ambiguity of their name only adds to the fascination. Were they literal giants, towering over normal humans? Or was their giant status more metaphorical, indicating their significant influence and power? Ancient cultures often told stories of giants, and the Nephilim could be another iteration of this widespread mythological motif. Exploring further, we find the Nephilim mentioned again in Numbers 13:33, when the Israelite spies report seeing giants in the land of Canaan. They describe themselves as grasshoppers in comparison, highlighting the enormous size of these beings. This second reference reinforces the idea that the Nephilim were not just a myth, but a real and formidable presence in ancient times. Their reputation for being mighty and fearsome warriors added to their legendary status. The cultural context of the ancient Near East also sheds light on the Nephilim's significance. Many ancient civilizations, including the Mesopotamians and Canaanites, had their own stories of giants and divine beings. These tales often served to explain natural phenomena or legitimize the rule of kings, suggesting that the biblical account of the Nephilim might have served a similar purpose. By incorporating such figures into its narrative, the Bible connects with these broader mythological traditions, grounding its stories in a familiar cultural framework. Another intriguing aspect is the moral and spiritual implications of the Nephilim's existence. Their creation through the union of divine and human beings is seen by some as a transgression, a crossing of boundaries that were meant to remain separate. This idea of crossing forbidden lines ties into broader themes in Genesis, such as the fall of Adam and Eve. The presence of the Nephilim can thus be interpreted as another example of humanity's tendency to overstep its bounds, leading to divine judgment. This perspective is further supported by the timing of the Nephilim's appearance. Their story comes just before the account of the Great Flood, which was sent to cleanse the earth of its wickedness. Some scholars believe the Nephilim were part of this corruption, their very existence a sign of the moral decay that had taken root in the world. This context places the Nephilim at a critical juncture in biblical history, marking them as symbols of both human ambition and divine retribution. Despite the many theories and interpretations, the true nature of the Nephilim remains elusive. Their brief but impactful presence in the Bible continues to spark debate and fascination among scholars and enthusiasts alike. The Nephilim embody a blend of historical, mythological, and theological elements, making them one of the most enigmatic figures in biblical lore. Their story, though fragmented, offers a glimpse into the ancient worldview and the rich tapestry of beliefs that shaped early human history. The mystery of the Nephilim invites us to delve deeper into the Bible's ancient texts and consider the ways in which these stories were crafted to convey profound truths about humanity, divinity, and the intersection of the two. Each interpretation adds another layer to our understanding, revealing the complexity and depth of these ancient narratives. Goliath of Gath is undoubtedly the most famous giant in the Bible. He appears in 1 Samuel 17, challenging the army of Israel to single combat. Standing nearly 10 feet tall, clad in heavy armor, and wielding a massive spear, Goliath was a terrifying sight. For 40 days, he taunted the Israelites, daring anyone to face him. His arrogance and brute strength symbolized the threat the Philistines posed to the people of Israel. But Goliath was not alone. He had brothers, also giants, mentioned in 2 Samuel 21 verses 15 to 22 and 1 Chronicles 20 verses 4 to 8. These texts describe various battles between the Israelites and the Philistine giants. One of Goliath's brothers, named Lami, is specifically mentioned, along with other unnamed giants. Each of these warriors was formidable, possessing impressive weapons and an intimidating size. They represented the Philistine military elite, commanding both fear and respect. The confrontation between David and Goliath is one of the most memorable episodes in the scriptures. David, a young shepherd with no military experience, volunteered to face the giant. Armed only with his faith in God, a sling and 5 smooth stones, he struck Goliath down with a single, precise shot to the forehead. David's victory was a miracle that showed everyone that God's power surpasses any human force. This event not only marked David's rise, but also inspired countless generations with his courage and faith. After Goliath's death, the Israelites continued to face giants. In 2 Samuel 21, we read about the descendants of Rapha, another line of giants who fought against Israel. In one of these battles, Sibbecai, one of David's warriors, killed a giant named Saph. In another encounter, Elhanan killed the brother of Goliath. These accounts show that the threat of giants persisted, requiring constant vigilance and courage from the people of Israel. The ongoing presence of giants in the biblical narratives underscores the struggle between good and evil, the divine and the profane. Each battle against the giants was a test of the Israelites' faith and determination. David and his men's ability to defeat these formidable enemies highlighted the protection and strength granted by God. These victories were more than military conquests. They were testimonies of divine intervention in Israel's history. In addition to Goliath and his brothers, other giants mentioned in the Bible include Og, king of Bashan, described in Deuteronomy as the last of the Rephaim. His iron bed, measuring about 13 feet long, attests to his enormous stature. Og was defeated by Moses and the Israelites during their journey to the Promised Land, adding another divine victory over the giants. These accounts reinforce the constant presence of giants as adversaries of God's chosen people. Giants also appear in other ancient traditions, reflecting a shared cultural memory of beings of extraordinary size and power. In the Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh, for instance, we find giant figures possessing immense strength. The similarity of these stories suggests that the biblical accounts of giants could be connected to a broader, ancient understanding of supernatural beings that once walked the earth. Goliath's brothers, like him, represent gigantic challenges faced by the Israelites. Each encounter with these beings was an opportunity to demonstrate faithfulness to God and courage in the face of seemingly insurmountable adversities. Victories over the giants served as constant reminders of divine providence and the resilience of the people of Israel. The battle between David and Goliath is one of the most iconic and inspiring stories in the Bible, capturing the imagination of millions over the centuries. This event is narrated in 1 Samuel 17, where the young shepherd David, the youngest of his brothers, volunteers to face the giant Goliath. The context of this battle unfolds during a war between the Israelites and the Philistines, with both armies camped on opposite sides of the Valley of Elah. Goliath, the champion of the Philistines, stands as an intimidating colossus, measuring about 10 feet tall and wearing bronze armor weighing over 125 pounds. With a spear whose iron point weighed 600 shekels, Goliath was confident in his invincibility. For 40 days, he challenged the Israelites, proposing a single combat to decide the fate of the war. His challenge was not just a military provocation, but also a test of faith and courage. David, who had been sent by his father to bring supplies to his brothers on the battlefield, heard Goliath's taunts and was outraged. He volunteered to fight the giant despite the skepticism of Saul and the other Israelite soldiers. Armed only with his sling, a staff, and 5 smooth stones from the brook, David faced Goliath with unwavering confidence in God. He declared that the Lord had saved him from lions and bears while tending the sheep, and that the same God would deliver him from the Philistine. David's confidence starkly contrasted with Goliath's arrogance. While the giant mocked the young shepherd, David proclaimed that the battle belonged to the Lord and that he would deliver Goliath into his hands. As Goliath advanced, David ran toward him, took a stone from his bag, and slung it, hitting Goliath in the forehead with such force that he fell face down on the ground. David then ran, grabbed Goliath's sword, and cut off his head, securing victory for Israel. Goliath's defeat caused panic among the Philistines, who fled in disarray, pursued and defeated by the Israelites. David's victory was not just a physical triumph, but a spiritual one, demonstrating that faith in God can overcome any obstacle. This event marked the beginning of David's rise, from an unknown shepherd to a national hero, and eventually, Israel's most revered king. The battle with David also serves as a powerful metaphor for personal challenges. David represented courage, faith, and trust in God, while Goliath symbolized the giants and obstacles everyone faces in life. The story teaches us that no matter the size of the challenge, faith and determination can help us overcome even the greatest adversities. Moreover, the story of David and Goliath highlights the importance of not underestimating those who seem small or insignificant. Saul and the Israelite soldiers doubted David's abilities because of his youth and lack of military experience. However, it was David who, with his faith and skills, brought victory. This reminds us that courage and ability can arise from the most unexpected places, and that we should be open to recognizing potential in everyone around us. The battle between David and Goliath also had a lasting impact on Israel's identity and history. David became a symbol of faith and leadership, and his victory over Goliath was frequently cited as an example of God's power working through his chosen ones. This event reinforced the belief that God was actively involved in protecting and guiding the destiny of the people of Israel. The legacy of the battle between David and Goliath continues to resonate in various cultures and contexts. The expression David versus Goliath is used worldwide to describe confrontations where a small and seemingly weak opponent faces a much more powerful adversary. The story has been retold in books, movies, and other media, perpetuating the message that faith and courage can triumph over brute strength and arrogance. Giants like the Nephilim and Goliath play a fascinating and multifaceted role in biblical narratives. To understand the significance of these giants, it is essential to consider the cultural and historical context of biblical times. In biblical accounts, giants were not merely impressive figures. They symbolized powerful and often hostile forces that challenged divine order and the community of the faithful. The presence of giants in Scripture is frequently associated with moments of great challenge and crisis for the people of Israel. The Nephilim, for example, appear in the pre-flood period, a time of corruption and violence that culminated in the Great Flood. The mention of the Nephilim in this context suggests that they were seen as part of the corruption that led God to cleanse the earth. This association between giants and moral transgression is repeated in other stories, where giants represent formidable enemies that must be defeated for divine justice to prevail. Beyond their moral symbolism, giants also illustrate the ongoing struggle between good and evil, between God's chosen people and opposing forces. Goliath and his Philistine brothers are clear examples of this. They were not just powerful warriors. They symbolized oppression and the constant threat to the Israelites. David's victory over Goliath is more than a military triumph. It is a demonstration that faith and trust in God can overcome any obstacle, no matter how insurmountable it may seem. Another important aspect is how giants reflect the worldview and beliefs of the cultures neighboring ancient Israel. Many Near Eastern civilizations, such as the Mesopotamians and Canaanites, also had myths of giants and divine beings. These stories shared themes of immense power and the struggle against titanic forces. By including giants in its narratives, the Bible not only connects with these cultural traditions, but also reinterprets them in light of Israelite monotheistic faith, emphasizing the supremacy of Israel's God over all other forces. Giants also underscore the need for dependence on God in times of crisis. Biblical stories often show the Israelites facing giants not with brute force but with faith and divine obedience. The battle against giants thus becomes a metaphor for spiritual struggle, where victory is achieved not by human strength but by divine intervention. This reinforces the central message of Scripture that God is always present and willing to help those who trust in Him. Besides battle narratives, giants also appear in contexts that highlight their ongoing threat to Israel's survival and prosperity. In Numbers 13, for example, when the Israelite spies return from Canaan, they report seeing giants in the land, causing fear and discouragement among the people. The spies and people's reactions reflect the internal struggle between faith and fear, between trusting God's promises and succumbing to apparent difficulties. This episode underscores the importance of unwavering faith in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges. Giants also play a role in building Israel's collective identity. Victories over these formidable enemies serve as lasting testimonies of God's power working through His people. These stories are remembered and celebrated in psalms and songs, reinforcing Israel's identity as a nation protected and guided by God. The memory of these victories strengthens the people's social and spiritual cohesion, reminding them of their roots and their call to be faithful to the covenant with God. Moreover, the presence of giants in biblical narratives contributes to the rich tapestry of biblical mythology, where the natural and the supernatural often intertwine. These stories are told and retold, gaining new layers of meaning over the centuries. Giants, with their threatening presence and miraculous defeats, continue to inspire and challenge readers and believers, inviting them to reflect on the battles they face in their own lives and find strength in faith. Ultimately, giants in biblical times represent more than mere physical antagonists. They encapsulate the spiritual and moral struggles that define Israel's journey of faith. By facing and defeating these giants, biblical narratives show that true strength lies not in physical power but in unwavering faith and trust in God. These stories continue to resonate, offering timeless lessons on courage, faith, and the constant divine presence in life's battles. The defeat of Goliath by David was an event that transcended the battlefield, deeply resonating in Israel's history and culture. This confrontation was not merely a military victory, but a decisive moment that altered the course of the nation. David's courage and Goliath's humiliation sent shockwaves throughout the region, redefining Israel's power and morale. Immediately after Goliath's fall, the Philistine army panicked and fled, pursued and defeated by the Israelites. This victory not only secured Israel's temporary safety, but also restored the people's confidence in their ability to face external threats. The psychological impact was as significant as the physical victory, boosting the morale of the troops and the people. Faith in God and belief in divine protection were renewed, reinforcing national identity and unity. David's rise as a national hero began that day. He transitioned from an unknown shepherd to a central figure in Israel's politics and culture. Saul, the king of Israel, initially impressed by David's bravery, soon turned to jealousy and fear. David's growing popularity among the people and his continued military successes made him a threat to Saul's reign. This set off a series of events that would eventually lead to Saul's downfall and David's ascension to the throne. Women sang in the streets, "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands." These public songs of praise reflected the shift in the people's perception of leadership. David was seen as God's chosen one, the future leader who would bring prosperity and security. This growing popularity created political and personal tension between Saul and David, culminating in several attempts by Saul to kill David. This period of persecution forced David to flee and live as a fugitive, but it also gave him the opportunity to gather loyal followers and prove his leadership skills. Beyond the political sphere, Goliath's defeat had profound spiritual implications. David always attributed his victory to divine intervention, reinforcing the belief that God was actively involved in his people's lives. The story of David and Goliath became a powerful symbol of faith and trust in God, a narrative repeated and taught for generations. This event was seen as proof that God not only chooses the weak to confound the strong, but also remains faithful to his promises of protection and leadership. The Philistines, on the other hand, suffered a devastating blow to their reputation and morale. The loss of their champion destabilized their power position in the region, allowing the Israelites to consolidate and expand their territory. David's subsequent victories against the Philistines and other enemies cemented his reputation as a formidable military leader and a man of faith. Each victory reinforced the idea that David was God's chosen instrument to lead Israel. Goliath's defeat also influenced Israel's art and literature. Psalms, songs, and historical accounts frequently referred to this victory as a testament to God's power. These texts not only celebrated the feat, but also served to instruct and inspire future generations. The story of David and Goliath was a constant reminder that faith and courage, combined with trust in God, could overcome any adversity. This event became a reference point in Israel's collective narrative. In the long run, Goliath's defeat and David's rise paved the way for a period of relative stability and prosperity under David's reign. His military success and political skill unified the tribes of Israel, establishing Jerusalem as the capital and religious center of the nation. This period of unification and growth set the stage for the reign of Solomon, David's son, who brought even more prosperity and infrastructure development, including the building of the temple in Jerusalem. The impact of David's victory over Goliath reverberated far beyond Israel's borders. The account of this battle spread, influencing other cultures and becoming part of the global cultural heritage. The narrative transcended its original context, becoming a universal archetype of the struggle between the small and the great, the oppressed and the oppressor. The lessons of faith, courage, and divine intervention continued to resonate, inspiring people in various times and places. David's victory over Goliath was, therefore, more than a historical event. It was a transformative moment that shaped the identity, faith, and future of the people of Israel. The story continues to be told and celebrated, reminding us of the power of faith and courage in the face of gigantic challenges. Beyond the famous story of David and Goliath, the Bible contains several other narratives of encounters with giants, each adding more depth and mystery to the presence of these titanic figures in the scriptures. These encounters offer a fascinating panorama of the constant battle between the Israelites and the forces seeking to challenge God's sovereignty and the destiny of his chosen people. In Numbers 13, we find one of the most intriguing references to giants. When Moses sent spies to explore the land of Canaan, they returned with reports of fortified cities and giant inhabitants. The spies described the land as a land that devours its inhabitants and claimed to have seen the Nephilim, descendants of Anak. This terrifying vision triggered panic among the Israelites, causing many to question their ability to conquer the promised land. The reaction of the spies and the people exemplifies the fear and uncertainty in the face of the unknown and the seemingly invincible. The book of Joshua also recounts encounters with giants during the conquest of Canaan. In Joshua 11 verses 21 to 22, it is mentioned that Joshua and the Israelites eliminated the Anakites from the hill country of Hebron, Debir, and Anab, destroying their cities completely. However, some Anakites escaped to Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod, continuing to be a threatening presence. These accounts show the persistence of giants and the ongoing need for vigilance and strength to ensure Israel's safety. Another significant giant figure in the Bible is Og, king of Bashan, mentioned in Deuteronomy 3. Og is described as the last of the Rephaim, a race of giants. His iron bed, measuring approximately 13 feet long, is mentioned as proof of his impressive stature. Moses and the Israelites faced Og and his army at Edrei, defeating them completely and taking possession of his land. The victory over Og reinforced the idea that with God's help, the Israelites could overcome any challenge, no matter how great. In 2 Samuel 21, we find more accounts of battles against giants during David's reign. Besides Goliath, other Philistine giants like Ishbi-benob and Saph are mentioned. In one of these battles, Abishai, David's nephew, killed Ishbi-benob, who wielded a bronze spear weighing 300 shekels. Another giant, who had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, was killed by Jonathan, another of David's nephews. These accounts highlight the ongoing threat of giants and the bravery of the Israelite warriors who faced these formidable adversaries. Giants also appear in apocryphal and pseudepigraphical texts, which, while not considered canonical by most Jewish and Christian traditions, offer additional insights into the beliefs and legends surrounding these beings. The Book of Enoch, for instance, describes the Nephilim as the offspring of fallen angels who mated with human women. These giants, according to Enoch, brought destruction and corruption to the earth, leading to the flood as a means of purification. Though not part of the biblical canon, these texts reflect the ongoing fascination with giants and their impact on history and morality. The persistence of giants in biblical and extra-biblical narratives underscores a central theme: the ongoing struggle between the forces of good and evil. Giants represent formidable obstacles, challenges that require faith, courage, and divine intervention to be overcome. Each victory over these colossal beings serves as a testament to God's power and the Israelites' ability to remain faithful and valiant in the face of seemingly insurmountable adversities. Beyond spiritual symbolism, the stories of giants also offer a glimpse into the socio-political realities of the time. Accounts of fortified cities and giant warriors reflect the constant tensions and conflicts between different groups and kingdoms in the ancient Near East. The presence of giants in biblical texts can be seen as a way to reinforce the legitimacy and identity of the Israelites, highlighting their miraculous victories over powerful enemies. These narratives have also influenced culture and literature over the centuries. The figure of the giant as an adversary has been a recurring theme in myths, legends, and folktales from various cultures. The battle against giants symbolizes the eternal struggle between light and darkness, order and chaos. In the Judeo-Christian tradition, these stories continue to inspire and teach, offering lessons about faith, resilience, and the importance of trusting in God. Encounters with giants in the Bible, therefore, go beyond mere physical confrontations. They encapsulate deep spiritual and moral struggles, reflecting the experiences and challenges faced by the people of Israel. By exploring these narratives, we are reminded that no matter the size of the challenges we face, faith and trust in God can help us overcome them. These stories continue to resonate, inspiring generations to face their own giants with courage and determination. The stories of the Nephilim, Goliath, and other giants in the Bible have been the subject of numerous theories and interpretations over the centuries. The complexity and richness of these accounts have sparked debates among theologians, historians, and biblical scholars, each seeking to understand who these giants were and their true role in the biblical narrative. These interpretations vary widely, reflecting the diversity of thought and approaches to understanding these enigmatic beings. One of the oldest and most persistent theories is that the Nephilim were the offspring of fallen angels who mated with human women. This interpretation is strongly influenced by the Book of Enoch, an apocryphal text that expands on the brief verses in Genesis 6 verses 1-4. According to Enoch, the angels known as Watchers descended to earth, took human wives, and produced giants. These giants, due to their hybrid origin, were beings of great power and corruption, whose actions contributed to the depravity that led to the flood. Although the Book of Enoch is not part of the traditional biblical canon, it has had a significant influence on the formation of beliefs about the Nephilim. Another interpretation suggests that the sons of God mentioned in Genesis 6 were members of a noble or powerful lineage within human society, possibly descendants of Seth, the third son of Adam and Eve. According to this view, the Nephilim were simply humans of extraordinary stature and abilities, the result of marriages between these Sethite leaders and common women. This approach demystifies the idea of supernatural beings, offering a more naturalistic explanation for the existence of giants. However, it still leaves open the question of how these humans could be so different and formidable. A third theory is that the biblical giants, such as Goliath and his brothers, were remnants of ancient peoples known for their height and strength. Archaeologists and historians have suggested that some ancient human groups, such as the Anakites and the Rephaim, might have included exceptionally tall individuals, possibly due to genetic variations or specific environmental conditions. This theory seeks to anchor the biblical accounts in historical and archaeological facts, providing a more tangible context for the stories of giants. Beyond these more traditional theories, contemporary literature and modern theological thought have explored new interpretations of the biblical giants. Some scholars view the Nephilim and other giants as metaphors or allegories, representing forces of chaos and opposition to God. In this sense, the giants would not be literal beings but symbols of the spiritual difficulties and challenges that the faithful must face. This allegorical approach allows for a more flexible and applicable reading of the scriptures, highlighting the moral and spiritual lessons underlying the stories of giants. Another interesting perspective comes from comparative mythology studies, which analyze the similarities between biblical stories and other ancient narratives of giants and supernatural beings. Cultures around the world, from the Greeks to the Norse, have their own versions of giants and titans, beings of great power and size who often oppose the gods. These comparisons suggest that the inclusion of giants in biblical narratives might reflect a broader cultural tradition where these figures serve to illustrate the struggle between divine order and chaotic forces. Some modern theologians also explore the possibility that the Nephilim and other giants represent an ancient collective memory of a distant past, perhaps even reminiscences of contacts with advanced civilizations or impressive natural phenomena. This line of thought, though more speculative, opens a fascinating field for imagination and interdisciplinary study, linking mythology, archaeology, and theology in innovative ways. Regardless of the theory or interpretation adopted, it is undeniable that biblical giants continue to fascinate and intrigue. They represent more than mere characters in a narrative. They encapsulate themes of power, corruption, faith, and redemption. The ongoing presence of these figures in theological and cultural discussions attests to their lasting impact and their ability to provoke reflection and debate. Interpretations of biblical giants also reveal much about the evolution of religious beliefs and practices over time. From ancient oral traditions to modern exegesis, each generation of believers and scholars brings its own perspectives and questions, enriching the understanding of these biblical mysteries. The stories of giants serve as a point of convergence where history, mythology, and faith meet, offering a fertile field for exploration and continuous discovery. By considering the various theories and interpretations of biblical giants, we are invited to delve deeper into the scriptures, to question and to contemplate the great questions of existence, power, and the divine. Each perspective offers a new lens through which we can better see and understand these enigmatic figures and their role in the rich tapestry of biblical narratives. The legacy of the Nephilim and Goliath transcends their appearances in biblical narratives, permeating culture, theology, and art across the centuries. These legendary figures have been interpreted and reinterpreted in various ways, influencing our understanding of power, faith, and morality. The stories of the Nephilim and Goliath are more than historical accounts. They are enduring symbols that continue to inspire and challenge. The Nephilim, briefly mentioned in Genesis and other apocryphal texts, represent a captivating enigma. Their mysterious origin and association with fallen angels and cosmic transgressions confer a particular fascination upon them. In literature and art, the Nephilim have been depicted as tragic and powerful figures whose existences challenged divine order. This image resonated deeply, being used to explore themes of sin, redemption, and the conflict between good and evil. Goliath, on the other hand, is often seen as the archetype of the invincible adversary. His defeat by David is one of the Bible's most celebrated moments, symbolizing the triumph of faith over brute strength. The narrative of David and Goliath has been adapted in countless forms, from Renaissance paintings to contemporary films. The story offers a universal lesson about courage and trust in God, resonating across cultures and eras. Goliath has become a symbol of the seemingly insurmountable challenges everyone faces in life. Beyond their artistic and literary representations, the legacy of the Nephilim and Goliath manifests in theology and biblical exegesis. Scholars and theologians have debated the significance of these figures for centuries, proposing various interpretations reflecting their own times and cultural contexts. These debates have enriched the understanding of the scriptures, offering new perspectives on the nature of sin, redemption, and divine power. The study of the Nephilim and Goliath challenges readers to consider the deeper implications of biblical stories. The lessons drawn from the stories of the Nephilim and Goliath also have practical applications in everyday life. David's courage in facing Goliath inspires people to confront their own giants, whether they are personal, professional, or spiritual challenges. The story reminds the faithful that true strength comes from faith and trust in God, not necessarily from physical ability or material power. This teaching remains relevant in an age where individuals often face seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Moreover, the Nephilim and Goliath serve as powerful metaphors in discussions of morality and ethics. The Nephilim, with their dark origins and associations with sin, represent the dangers of corruption and disobedience to divine laws. Goliath, with his arrogance and brute strength, symbolizes oppression and injustice. The defeat of these figures by God's faithful offers a redemptive narrative, showing that good can triumph over evil even when the odds seem unfavorable. The influence of these stories extends to popular culture, where they are frequently used to explore themes of struggle and triumph. In books, movies, and games, we see characters and plots that echo David's battle with Goliath or the mystery of the Nephilim. These cultural references keep the stories alive, allowing new generations to connect with these ancient narratives in innovative ways. They demonstrate the timelessness of the themes addressed and the ability of biblical stories to transcend their original context. Beyond cultural and spiritual impact, the stories of the Nephilim and Goliath provoke philosophical reflections on the individual's role in the struggle against oppressive forces. David, a young shepherd, faced Goliath with unwavering faith, reminding us of the power of the determined individual and the importance of fighting for justice and truth. This philosophical perspective finds echoes in social and political movements seeking significant changes against seemingly invincible forces. The Nephilim and Goliath also highlight the complexity of the relationship between the divine and the human. The interaction between the sons of God and the daughters of men that led to the emergence of the Nephilim raises questions about the boundaries between the sacred and the profane. Goliath, as an adversary of God's chosen Israelites, represents the constant tension between divine forces and worldly powers. These stories encourage readers to reflect on the nature of divine intervention and humanity's role in following the path of justice and faith. Ultimately, the legacy of the Nephilim and Goliath is a testament to the richness and depth of biblical narratives. They challenge us to explore not only history and theology, but also the cultural, philosophical, and spiritual dimensions of the Scriptures. Through their stories, we are invited to contemplate the mysteries of faith, the complexity of power, and the human capacity to overcome evil with divine help. Thank you for watching our video about the Nephilim and Goliath. Lord Jesus, we thank you for guiding us on our journey of faith and for showing us that with your strength, we can overcome any challenge, no matter how great it may seem. Just as David defeated Goliath with his unwavering faith in you, we ask you to strengthen us to face our own giants. We remember the words in 1 Samuel 17 verse 47. All those gathered here will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to be notified when we publish new videos. Leave a comment below with your thoughts or questions. We want to hear from you and continue this journey together. God bless you all and see you next time.